Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and a continuation of my DIY, the new DIY project. As I said, I'm going to use the Talkboard's clone trucks 218mm wide, and I will be using Evolve AT kit. I might replace the tires for the Tramper tires, I'm not sure yet, but let's test the board out first. Well, let's build it first and then we're going to test it. I have already managed to fit the all-terrain tires from Evolve onto these trucks, but it wasn't straightforward. I'll show you the reason for my concern and also why you cannot just use that kit without a bit of DIY. But don't worry, I've got it covered. That's why I'm here, because I've got the solutions. So let's take a look. So the Talkboard trucks. Let's take the Evolve kit wheels and try to install it as it comes from the factory. As you can see, there's almost no thread showing to put the nut on it, and this is without the speed washers. The steel rod that is actually the axle of the trucks runs all the way through the aluminium part of the trucks. So what we need to do is we just need to shave enough of this aluminium off the trucks to accommodate for the nut. Very simple, and I will show you how to do this. The tools that you will need to fit the Evolve AT kit onto a caliber 2 218mm wide trucks are a bit of masking tape, hacksaw, grips and a rag. You also need some sort of fixing tool. I'm using here just a cheap Stanley vise for my desk. We're going to cut a bit of this aluminium here to expose more of the rod or the axle, so we have enough space to fit the Evolve AT wheel, the wheel pulley and also speed washers and the nut. So you start with protecting the trucks using a normal painter's tape, like a masking tape, and I give it a nice dual coat. As you saw before, the only thing we're missing is roughly the width of the nut. So what you do is you put a nut next to the edge of this aluminium and you mark it with a pencil. After you marked it, put a rag or a rubber strip or whatever else you've got to protect the trucks from being scratched when you put it inside the vise. And then using a hacksaw, a little handheld saw that I got over here, that's the backhoe. That's when you need a bit of time. You start cutting the aluminium until you reach the steel rod, and you will cut it all the way around this aluminium coating. As I mentioned before, because I'm using two number 6374 motors, I do need the 218mm wide trucks, and the clone caliber 2 218mm trucks are the cheapest and the best to go for. They are square, so the motor mounts sit nice and tight around them because they have a square mount to them. Very nice, so you don't have to worry about them spinning around. So now turn some music on, relax, and nice and gently start cutting the aluminium until you reach the steel core. Trust me, you will feel when you reach the steel core, because the sound is different. Or if you look at the thickness of the aluminium, mark it on your blade, and you can see how deep you need to go. I see you in about 15 minutes. So after you've been all the way around the struts and you reach the steel, what you will see if you look in the light through that little cut over there is just the steel rod inside. What we do need to do next is we need to take this aluminium part off. Because the aluminium is molded around the steel, it's not going to be quite straightforward, but it's quite easy if you follow this guide. So now you mount the trucks in your vise looking upwards, just like that. And now we're going to take just a slice of this aluminium right next to the axle. So when you start cutting, be careful, don't cut the axle, but pretty much the corner of this aluminium piece right here. We're going to take it off. It's going to loosen up the aluminium, and we take the piece right off. This is just to show you what I mean by the corner. So after you cut the corner right off, what you do is you pop it off with a screwdriver, and now you have loosened up the aluminium away from the steel. And now, using a pair of grips, you simply twist the cut piece of aluminium of the rod. And this is pretty much how it's going to look like. You take it right off, and now you have just lost the thickness of the aluminium, just enough to accommodate for the nut and expose more of the steel rod or the axle. The next step would be just to get the surface that you cut nice and pretty using an ordinary file. So the tugboard's trucks are now altered, and we can fit the Evolve kit easily on them. And the reason why I was using the painter's tape is because after you take it off, your trucks are nice and clean, no scratches, good to go. Let's check now if the Evolve AT kit fits nicely. Let's do it properly, so we'll use the speed washer first, then the Evolve AT kit with the wheel pulley, another speed washer, and there we go. Plenty of space to put the locking nut. Hi. So guys, I hope you liked the video. Now you know how to install the Evolve AT kit onto Caliber 2 trucks. We're going to now continue with my videos and install the trucks, the front and rear, on this beautiful drop down deck. Thank you for watching. Ride safely, and please like the video and subscribe if you want to see this DIY becoming alive. And while you're still here, that means you are my trusted watcher and my trusted subscriber. I got a little tip for you. And the tip is, if you will decide to use the tugboard's trucks, when you put the Evolve wheels on, you'll end up with a space, and the thread is not going to be long enough to actually tighten up the nut. So what you need to do is, you need to use a spacer. That's an 8mm spacer, same spacer that goes between the bearings, but even with the spacer, which is a standard size, you will have a little bit free space. So what I found to work really well is an 8mm lock washer, or the spring washer. So you put the spring washer on first, then the spacer, then you put the wheel on, and then a speed washer and the locking nut. And this is perfect because this locking washer or the spring washer will actually keep your wheel tight even if you're not loosened up a little bit. Brilliant. One thing I wanted to tell you, what I do use normally is a normal grease. And when I put the trucks together, I put a bit of grease on the bushings and also on all the moving parts, because that stops all that squeaky, nasty noises. I also put a bit of grease on this rod where the bushing goes onto, and also on both surfaces of the bushing, just like that. Oh, almost lost it. Just like that. So I thought I mentioned that because that does stop that squeaky, nasty noise.